Hello and welcome, everybody, to a very special Friday Live here today. It is the unofficial after party of the Australian College of Strata Lawyers 16th Annual Law Conference. I am very pleased to be here with you today. That's the reason why it's a little later than our usual Friday Live. We often go live here on the Your Strata Property Facebook page and over on LinkedIn at 4 o'clock on Friday, covering off the week that was in Strata. We have pushed that back a little. It is now just gone 5:15 here in New South Wales because we were wrapping up the College of Strata Lawyers annual conference. 3 days we have spent at our very first online conference, and I was given the permission, if not the endorsement, can't say that, of our college to invite you all here to what I'm calling our conference after party. Now, lawyers enjoy working hard. We do. Those of us who are strata lawyers in particular, you have to enjoy this stuff. Otherwise, you can't really stick with it. It is hard work, but we also play hard. So we do love our annual conferences, and when we can get together with our colleagues from across the country, all states of Australia, and also Singapore, also New Zealand, representatives from all of those places getting together to talk strata, owners corporation, body corporate, strata company, strata title, unit titles, law. It's a really, really special time. And we've all been a bit sad that we haven't been able to get together in person and enjoy our socializing. So I've suggested that a few of us can get together here live on the page and give you a rundown of what the conference was about, some key insights that our presenters delivered, some of our favorite parts from the conference. And you are going to have access to some pretty well established, some pretty smart cookies, some legal brains here. So lots of strata lawyers here in the one place. Be kind, please. If you are joining us, and I did invite a number of my colleagues who are at the conference to join us here, I'd especially like to know if you're tuning in, whether live or to the recording. I know many professionals at this time of the day are rushing off to attend to kids stuff and family stuff. So if you've come back to join us for the recording, do drop us a hello as well. I can see in the chat there that Bruce is here walking in the street in Pyrmont, but can't stay. We'll watch the fun later. Absolutely. You are more than welcome there, Bruce. Now, I am very soon going to welcome in my first guest for today. She is indeed a strata lawyer operating from Sydney. Her name is Helen Cowell. And she has been a past guest here on one of our Friday Lives, and I'm very pleased to welcome her back. She also contributed to our College of Strata Lawyers conference. Before I bring her on, I am going to acknowledge a few more hellos coming in through the chat here, including on LinkedIn, where we're heading out to. Bill and Ben is saying, Bruce, one does not walk in Pyrmont, one struts. Okay. Just so you know. Bill and Ben, I don't think you're a Pyrmont local, so, or maybe you once were. I have to look into that. Michelle is here. She's still got some mobile service to tune in. I know Michelle is traveling this afternoon. Michael is here, excited for the first in-person event in a long time. Yes, I have teased that I will be doing a live in-person event very soon. I'm going to let you know the details about that. Savia is here on LinkedIn. Lovely to see you. Bruce is saying fair point there to Bill and Ben, and Jared is here saying hi. Awesome. So great to see you all here, even with our new time slot. Now, I have teased you enough. I am about to welcome in strata lawyer extraordinaire, Helen Cowell. Hey, Helen.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I am doing well, and it's lovely to have you here with us at our official, unofficial after party for the College of Strata Lawyers conference. Thank you. I can see you there in your office. Is that where you've joined the conference from today?
Yes, I have. Unfortunately, a bit of work to do on the sides.
That's the thing with online conferences, and we have to be careful of that as professionals. I know many tuning in will have experienced that. When you're at your desk at the computer, it's very easy to have the inbox open, the other deadlines calling you. It's hard to stay focused sometimes.
That's right. That's right. It was a great conference. A little bit sad to have to hold it virtually, but hopefully next year we'll be back together and get to enjoy a few wines afterwards.
Yes, indeed. Well, look, that hasn't stopped me. And I did invite anybody joining us today to BYO. And I know, Helen, you're heading off to do the family thing that we often do on a Friday night as well. So thank you very much for jumping in. Now, you prepared a case update for us for the conference. Am I right?
I did. Yes, I prepared a case study on the La Crosse Court of Appeal decision in Victoria that was handed down on the 26th of March this year. So, yeah.
Now, I didn't realise that you were also a specialist practitioner in Victoria.
Well, not really, no. But I like to be adaptable.
Excuse me, all of that talking at the beginning of that has caught me in the throat, but I'll get there.
Okay. That's okay.
So tell us, the La Crosse, we're talking about the fire and the court cases that have then followed that famous fire. What are the key takeaways from that Court of Appeal decision, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot here?
No, that's okay. That's okay. So key takeaways. Court of Appeal pretty much upheld the VCAT decision at first instance. The claim again by the Owners Corporation for the fire, which is obviously well published, and most participants on this chat would be aware of those circumstances. But essentially, the Owners Corporation's claim against the builder for being primarily liable for the damages, 100% liable for the damages, was upheld, along with the builder's claims against all of the other respondents that the builder joined in. So it was interesting. It was an interesting outcome, I guess, from the point of view of the apportionment of liability amongst the various respondents. So the builder, although having that primary liability, had 100% or 97%, apart from the 3% that was attributed to the offender for the cigarette butt on the balcony. Having those respondents, so the three consultants, pay the damages to the builder. So the consultants were relying on various grounds of appeal. Pretty much all of them were not granted leave, and they only considered one of the grounds of appeal in the case. But essentially, the Court of Appeal upheld that the builder did not fail to exercise reasonable care in constructing the building, and therefore the apportionment of liability issue was upheld, and the consultants failed in their claims to try and have the builder brought into having some apportionment of that liability.
Yep. Do you think that's the right decision, what you know of the background to the case?
I think on the basis, I mean, the argument of the builder obviously was that he relied on the expertise of his consultants in carrying out areas of the building work, and that he wasn't qualified to make those decisions, so that he engaged the consultants for that purpose. So in that respect, I think it's probably quite reasonable for the consultants to have some liability. Whether the builder should have escaped all of the liability at the end of the day, even though being initially liable to the Owners Corporation, is a little bit questionable. But I think, I think that the grounds put forward by each of the consultants were considered and rejected by the Court of Appeal.
Yep. Just goes to show how complex these arrangements are when we're constructing apartment buildings, and all of the different parties involved and different contracts, different legal obligations. When things come undone, it can get quite confusing and expensive to litigate these problems. Now, anyone crashing into our live at the moment might be thinking, Amanda, I thought this was the lawyers' party and we were celebrating. This is actually how we get together, guys, by the way. And this is what we love about being specialist lawyers in a particular space, is that we can dig deep on issues that are fascinating to us. And when we're sitting around having dinner or having a drink, we actually do. We're kind of sad like that. We do talk about cases and we do talk about what we think about them. We're kind of those annoying university students. Doctors are guilty of this as well, where you bring your partner or your friend along when you're at uni and they say, you guys are so boring. You just talk about, what you learnt in your lecture. You say, yeah, but it's interesting. It's fun.
I think just on the lacrosse case in New South Wales, I think today with the Design and Building Practitioners Act coming in to effect and the duty of care provisions under that act may have found that case decided differently in New South Wales. So it would, hopefully we don't have any more buildings burning down in New South Wales, but it definitely would be a different case run today.
Very interesting to know that. David Chandler doing his good work there. Helen, did you manage to tune into any other sessions in the conference, and was there anything that stood out to you that you enjoyed?
Yeah, look, I tuned into the majority of them. Overall, I just love the fact that we get a very wide depth of knowledge coming from all over Australia and New Zealand, and it just it amazes me how different the legislation in each state is, and perhaps we should all sit down and take the best points from each and try and get one that actually works across all states. But I had particular interest in pretty much the last session, apart from yours, from Dr. Edward T. Obviously, I have a big interest in strata renewal matters in New South Wales. Have been involved in that legislation since it started in 2016 under Part 10. So the consideration of just and equitable and how that's defined and considered by the courts in other jurisdictions was really interesting. And as we haven't had a full final hearing on that part as yet, apart from an uncontested final hearing, it will be interesting to see how the courts, Land and Environment Court in New South Wales, adapts that.
Yes, just for the benefit of our viewers, if you didn't catch on there, we're talking about the ability to terminate a strata scheme with a supermajority voting in favour of that, not necessarily everybody. And Dr. Edward T. from Singapore Management University, the School of Law there, has put together a paper that he presented on the way that law is operating in different parts of the world, including in New Zealand. So yes, we have been watching that unfold with interest in New South Wales, and maybe see some more cases. Have you got, without naming any names, you got any on your books at the moment, Helen, that might be coming through?
I do have a few not too far away. So, yeah.
I did hear through the grapevine, I don't think it was directly, through the grapevine, the lawyer who ran that one uncontested case where they've got the renewal orders in place said, never again. I never, ever. We won, we got the orders, but I never in my lifetime want to do that again.
It is a very complex technical piece of legislation for compliance, and there's aspects of strata, property and litigation all pulled in to the one case. So it does create some tension and concern at times.
Yep. Oh, well, good luck. Looking forward to seeing your cases come on through. Well, thank you for joining me for our after party for our lawyers conference this year. I am going to let you go, Helen, because I know you're rushing off to your Friday evening, and I'm going to welcome in our next special guest. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Amanda, and have a good weekend.
Have a lovely weekend, Helen. Sorry, I just cut Helen off there. Bye. got a bit trigger happy on the mouse. I'm seeing a few more of you come on in and say hello. I do want to acknowledge you. And if you are there in the wings and you are joining us for our late-ish Friday Live, which is also a celebration of the conclusion of our first online Strata Lawyers conference for our College of Strata Lawyers, do jump in and give me a hello. Emiliana is here saying, I'm happy to join the party. It's good to see you, Emiliana. We are very happy to have you here with us too. Another Strata lawyer waiting in the wings here for us, also practicing in New South Wales, also a previous guest here on live. See, if you've been on live with me before, when I put the call out to say, hey, let's do it again, of course, would love to, because it's fun and it's easy and it's not scary. We need to send that message out to the boys. Okay, as you can see, we're bringing on two females here. The two females happy to join us here for our Friday Live and share their knowledge. I am bringing on right now a director of Kieran Benson Lawyers. She is Alison Benson.
Hi guys.
Hey Alison, how you doing?
Hello. I'm just hanging up from my online shopping while I was waiting. So all good.
Nice.
Nice.
Good. That we all need to be doing that on a Friday afternoon as we head into the weekend. Look, as I've just called out the boys and brought you on there, Alison, Michael Allen has outed himself and he's posted here in the chat. Hi, Amanda, I'm here and I've rectified the beverage problem. Excellent, Michael. What are you drinking?
Michael.
Oh, nice one. What have you got there? You got some bubbles, Alison.
Yes, I do have some bubbles. We are celebrating our 7th year at Kieran Benson. So that was yesterday. So I thought, well, I'm going to break open the bubbles tonight, even if it's, just online and sharing.
Congrats. 7 years. It goes fast, doesn't it?
With Christopher Kieran, it went from a long time. But no, all good. All good.
Love. Said with love.
There was some very dry congratulations to each other yesterday. No, all good. What is the point of having a business partner if you can't slag each other off?
If you can't blame each other. Exactly. That's what they're there for. I do just want to follow up Michael's comment there about the beverage problem. I just did a wrap up of our conference about half an hour ago, and I did encourage our delegates, as we call them, to bring along a little beverage. We can't get together in person and have a post-conference drink, so bring one along virtually. And Michael said, oops, I forgot to bring my drink. So that is the beverage problem that he had, which he has now rectified. So very pleased to see you here, Michael, and I take it all back about the boys not joining in. And Michael Allen, if that name is familiar to any of you, it's because he is one of the godfathers, may I say that, of strata law here in New South Wales, together with Gary Bugden, who was one of our presenters on the at the conference. Very much enjoyed his paper. Michael and Gary leading Bugden Allen lawyers across the eastern states. I think you might be now. Michael, is Victoria going now? I think so. You'll let me know. So very pleased to have him here with us. And Sean is here saying hello and his customary red wine. Lovely to see you, Sean. So Alison, I very much enjoyed your presentation. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because you and I were laughing offline about the Alisonisms, I call them, that came into the presentation.
Yeah.
One of them was, owners need to understand that they don't own the common property and they just have to get their grubby little paws off it and seek permission when they want to do renovations. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's probably put a little bit harshly. I hadn't been drinking at that stage, no. But the sentiment does stand. I have to admit, the caveat to that is, or the explanation to that is, I have spent this week in a very bitter dispute about somebody who has decided to appropriate a common property bathroom, knock through a wall, and make it theirs. So they've just
Make
literally
the bathroom theirs.
That make the common property bathroom theirs. So
It's a nice value add. You can get it.
I thought that myself. I went, oh, okay. I wonder if next door would wonder if I really just extended my driveway all across their house and, make myself at home as well. Maybe they can, get me a drink out of their fridge, perhaps. And it it was a very bitter and twisted. The person on the other side just genuinely thought that they could do this sort of thing, which is incredibly frustrating and had been going on for a number of years, which was quite interesting. With one of the sessions, it was the pitfalls and pitbulls of enforcing in NCAT, in the tribunals.
Yes.
Because some of these cases, you go to NCAT or whichever your state's jurisdiction is, you get the orders, but then getting compliance with the orders that somebody has to, as in this case, rectify what they have done. So put the wall back up between the common property toilet, make another door so that everybody else can use this common property toilet and bathroom. That's a whole other kettle of fish. So that was quite interesting, actually, to see it's not just our jurisdiction. It is shared across all Australian jurisdictions and New Zealand as well, that there are problems. People doing naughty things in strata will just do naughty things in strata, and we have to just keep our eye on it.
And I'm very glad that you're raising this, because it's actually on my list. I added it to my content list recently to discuss on a podcast or to chat with on a chat with Rena about what I'm seeing as an increased trend, or a trend perhaps with owners who I say are becoming increasingly savvy, because they understand perhaps the workings of the tribunal a little bit more, and they're starting to understand, well, I can wait for approval, I can seek approval, I can spend the money on a bylaw, I can put it forward, or I can just do it anyway without approval, whatever the work is, and deal with the consequences. A, the building may never do anything. B, if the building does commence proceedings, the tribunal, in my view and my experience, is actually quite likely to say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to make a rectification order, but I'm going to send you back to a general meeting to seek retrospective approval. The tribunal has that discretion.
It's forgiveness afterwards, isn't it? And that's
exactly. And the owner says, and there's no penalty to the owner. They've got their brand new bathroom or whatever it is that they've done. They've gone back to put forward a bylaw on reasonable terms. The bylaw perhaps gets approved, and away they go. So I'm left with the committee that says, Amanda, what's the point of having strata laws and having bylaws when the owners go and do it anyway, and we're tearing our hair out? We're the ones having to commence proceedings because you're telling us if we don't, then nothing's going to happen. The owner's just going to keep their illegal renovation. And I'm seeing that more and more. And I say it's because owners are becoming more aware, more savvy, more attuned to what their rights and obligations are, and are trying it on.
Look, I think so. And, two examples. During the lockdown period, I was speaking to a long-term client, and he had unfortunately been unable to get his bylaw for works through, and didn't want to take it to the tribunal, didn't want to spend the money for an unreasonable refusal. He just happened to ask for a meeting. So I had this Zoom meeting, and at about the ceiling level, there's this void. So he had decided during lockdown, and you could see that because he swiveled the camera around, there was a little ladder up to the void, and he was creating the mezzanine level that he hadn't got approved through the schemes last time. So this was, his method of forcing the issue to say, well, look, I've done it. What are you going to do? So that was I was like, can't say the person's name, but I said, excuse me, can you just pan your camera up? Because it was very, very clearly work in progress. I said, did you just do that? Yeah, got it. Got bored during lockdown, decided to build up and out, as the case may be. And yes, now we're dealing with the fallout. And, rightly or wrongly, he has breached the Act and the bylaws.
And where the cost of the owner's corporation then, and energy, to go and deal with it.
Take it to NCAT to deal with it. So I actually, when I was helping out with the ACL submissions on the strata reforms, I actually was talking about the penalty orders and the fact that we will be able to enforce our orders, our NCAT orders in New South Wales shortly, by way of a $5,500 penalty. I think it is. which we haven't been able to do for a very long time, or since 2016, which is, donkey's years. But I just said, well, quite frankly, if I was a lot owner, and I'm not advocating this, if I was a lot owner and, I was parking my car and the owners corporation wasn't doing anything about it, $5,000 as a penalty shot, that's not that very much for a car park, is it? How much do car parks go for in Sydney these days?
Yep.
So you could probably cop a few applications to NCAT and put your hand up and say, that was me, I did that, yeah, sorry, whoops.
Did we hear in the one of the last sessions today about a Queensland penalty of up to $40,000?
$40,000, and that's why I was bringing it up, because that is brilliant. I really do think the penalties need to be bigger. Why? As I said, the car park example, if I'm going to pay $70,000 for a car park, whereas I know if the owners corporation wanted to take action, they've got to go through the NCAT process, they've got to incur the fees, then they may or may not get a penalty against me, and the maximum penalty is around $5,000. Well, that pays for a couple of years of car park for me, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
that used to be.
Sorry?
That used to be the position with pets as well, before our law became a little bit clearer on pet bans, was that, there's a pet ban, I don't care if I get fined, it's worth $5,000 to keep my pet. Of course I'm going to pay that.
Absolutely. So I was a bit flabbergasted when I heard the $40,000 fine from Queensland, and I thought, what a great idea. So it's got to have, enforced ability of NCAT orders, but put a little bit of bite there as well. There you go, another Alisonism, biting my bark.
I love these Alisonisms. I just want to acknowledge some comments here. Ash is here. Hi, Ash. How you doing? Michael Allen is saying, watch this space, which I think relates to your Victorian office perhaps there, Michael, which is exciting. Sean, who I know is a strata manager, is saying he's got a new owner doing renos before moving in, including core drilling through the slab today. There you go. You've had a Friday fun time of it, Sean, and asking for forgiveness, not permission. Yes. And I know your comment there, Sean, lawyers should not ask uncomfortable questions, came up when Alison was talking about her client on Zoom and she could see the mezzanine that had been removed. I once sat in a conference with a criminal lawyer. I don't know why I was there, but I was there for some reason. And the lawyer made a point, I noted, of not actually asking the client whether he did the crime or not. And I raised that up. I said, don't you care whether he did it or not? He said, of course not. And that doesn't matter to me as a lawyer, whether he did it or not. It's what the evidence is. And I, as a criminal lawyer, I would never ask a client, did you do it? Because that's not the point.
I believe with criminal law too, if they directly ask the question and the client says, yes, I did, they can't run a positive defence. And I believe that's the reason why criminal lawyers will never, ever ask.
Yes. I look at the evidence and then I decide how you're going to plead.
Absolutely. And then if they have strong suspicions, they still don't know for sure, so they can run a positive defence. So that's the big difference. Whereas, if it's looking in you in the face or something is clearly
there's a hole in the wall on the Zoom call. And do you record your client conferences when you do them over Zoom? Do you record it for the file?
I don't actually. Do you?
I do. Yeah, I do. And I say to the client, it's yours. I'm recording this call so you don't have to take mad notes and remember everything that I say. And I will give you a copy of this video, which is yours to keep afterwards. And it's great. Clients love it. Bit of value add there for lawyers listening.
No, that's brilliant.
As long as you're comfortable, of course. As long as you're comfortable that everything you're saying is being recorded, but we should be as lawyers.
Look, I think as a lawyer, if you don't know something, and this was drilled into me from junior lawyer onwards, if you don't know, you say, I do not know. If you are 99% sure, you say, look, I believe this is the case. I need to go and check. And then you do your checking and then you come back. And if your checking is, oh, sugar, I got that wrong, you stick your hand up and you say, I got that wrong. Yep. Sorry. But, you need to check. And I think it's something that, everybody, not just lawyers, but strata managers, accountants, anybody involved in this field needs to say, well, strata managers, for instance, well, I believe the bylaw says this. Let me just go and double check. I believe you're not financial. Let me just go and have a look. Because we can all get things incorrect in the heat of the moment. And, I think you know yourself that you have a client interview and you think it's about one thing, and then you go down this wormhole and it turns out to be about something completely different. So you might prep for one thing, and then it turns out to be something 180 degrees the other direction.
Now, something very exciting has just happened. We have another lawyer who has just entered our waiting room here.
Lovely.
I can see him down below. And so I'm very glad. I'm not sure if he was listening earlier, but I was saying, where are the boys? The boys have been invited.
Please tell me he's not wearing a beanie.
He is not wearing a beanie. No, he's not wearing a beanie. Now, I've given you a little bit of warning, so I'm hoping he's ready to come in. He is indeed David Edwards. Here he is. Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Howdy. How are you?
We are great. It is so lovely to have you join us. I know you said that you would make it if you could. I've just outed you. I've seen that you've typed David E on your name there. So too bad. Everyone now knows it's you. Sydney Strata lawyer, partner at Doyle, Edwards and Anderson Lawyers, and one of our fellows of the college who enjoyed the conference with us today. So happy conference close to you.
Yeah, thanks to you too. It was great. There's some really good sessions over the last few days. So glad to be able to participate in at least some format. Would have been good to get together in person, obviously, but the next best thing was what we had. So I thought it was really well run and some really good sessions. So, yeah.
Yep. And did you bring...
Sorry.
I think I'll just check. Did David bring us something for a drink?
I brought my Yeti cup beer,
nice
my Yeti beer cooler holder that keeps my beer nice and cool when I'm drinking it.
Is that like a super fancy stubby holder?
Pretty much, yeah. It's one of those insulated ones that they make them in the wine cups as well. If you put the lid on the wine cup and if you have, say, ice in there, come back 4 hours later and the ice will still be, it won't have melted. They're pretty cool.
There is a problem with that, David. It's too much like a sippy cup, like you're just drinking a slushy. So those of you at home who are tempted to drink it like a slushy, don't. Hence, I'm back in the glass because I'm obviously a child and can't handle that responsibility level.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I don't know how much of our earlier conversation you heard, David. I know you were doing family things this afternoon, so you may not have caught it all. We were talking about, and being a New South Wales lawyer, it helps to have you here joining in the conversation. The tendency that I'm seeing, or the trend of owners to just go ahead and breach our strata laws and do renovation works, for example, without approval and either seek permission later or leave it to the tribunal to order them. And we're talking about penalties, this $5,000 maximum penalty, which we've only just had reinstated in January since our new law. There are some comments here in the chat. Bruce is asking, how does NCAT get the fine to be paid if it does order a fine? Alison, you were saying there's trouble with that, weren't you?
There is indeed. But having said that, I'm going to throw to David because, you haven't spoken very much, David. And, I'm all for the male participation.
Yeah, look, I think it's a curious provision, although it's welcome that it's been reinstated because at the moment it's difficult to enforce any orders. It's a once-off penalty. Some people, quite frankly, would be prepared to pay. And, of course, the $5,500 is a maximum. So, there might be a penalty that might be $1,000 or $2,000 for a breach of an order. And it seems to be the way that it's written, as far as I understand it, is it's a once-off penalty. So if they pay the fine even, leaving aside enforcement and recovery of that for a moment, they pay it, then what then happens?
Yep.
What are the other enforcement mechanisms? Do you have to then just go back to relying on, I guess, the contempt provisions, which have themselves got some problems? You can go to NCAT for contempt, but they'll probably just send you to the court. just time, cost, etc. I don't know why there's not a cascading provision that enables NCAT to continue to order fines in the event that there's non-compliance with the original order and non-compliance with any further orders that are made imposing fines. But maybe we'll get there. They're doing the 5-year review. Who knows? But I mean, this provision's only just been introduced, so I'm not even sure if it's up for review as part of the overall review.
No, I don't think it was up for review. The discussion paper for the review was actually quite specific. Didn't give much room in some areas that I was quite disappointed on. I would have liked, to be able to talk a little bit more about the enforcement provisions and the penalty provisions in NCAT, but it just wasn't up for grabs in the discussion paper. So, and that was one of the topics that was coming down. I think Nicole Johnson's presentation was that the reform process, and she was talking about the need for transparency, and so far it's all been top down rather than driven by the community and the people that are actually living, working, breathing in these spaces, pushing the reform through. So I think that is a factor of it being a top-down reform process. We're told what we're allowed to talk about and what we're allowed to try and get reformed.
Yeah.
There's a comment here in the Facebook comments from Michael Allen, who says, would love to see some real teeth in penalties for flagrant and serious breaches of the legislation, but in New South Wales, it's nearly impossible to even get an order for costs. So what are our prospects of getting a WA level penalty for such breaches? Cost is a really interesting issue, Michael, and I'm glad that you raised it, because do you guys remember in the old legislation, we used to have our notices to comply and then our penalty orders, and then you could get a cost order in the context of a penalty order, and it almost followed the event. And I would frequently have penalty orders for $250 with a cost order of $5,000. And that then got the attention of the owner. I thought, oh, well, then if I do keep doing this and I have to keep paying the cost order, then the costs become significant.
Yep.
But
and that would make it count. But yeah, I do agree. It's difficult to get cost orders.
Yeah, and again, it's curious why that provision was left out of the 2015 amendments. I mean, because in effect, what they did in 2015 was allow any penalty that was ordered to be paid to the owners' corporation instead of being paid into consolidated revenue, which was supposed to encourage owners' corporations to enforce the bylaws against people that are breaching them. But of course, under the old regime, as you indicated, Amanda, you could then costs would essentially follow the event. That was my experience as well. If you got the penalty, then costs followed the event. You recovered your costs as well. Now, I mean, it costs, if an owner's corporation is going to engage a lawyer, which quite often they will need to, given the rules of evidence apply to those types of applications, then the cost of enforcement far outweighs the $550 fine that you might receive. So, yeah, look, I think, and I agree with Michael's comment that what I find with costs and having to establish special circumstances is that there's already enough inconsistency in the tribunal with their decision making. And I find in that area, because there's even more discretion in relation to costs and it's very difficult to appeal from a discretionary decision, that there's even more inconsistency in costs. So I've had matters where I've thought, we've won. If I had to bet, I'd say we're sure thing going to get a cost order in this case, and we won't get a cost order made. But then in another case where I'm not so sure and think, it's probably not special circumstances, but we'll make an application anyway, and we're awarded costs, and I can't reconcile the two decisions. So it's very frustrating.
You know what the rule of thumb is, David, in the tribunal. If you have the merits, you're going to lose, and if you don't, you're going to get an order in your favour.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Now, listen, David, how did you get out of you didn't do a paper, did you? A presentation in this conference? Did I miss it?
No, I didn't this year. I was just one of the content attendees this year and not having to prepare a paper, but I was quite content with that to listen to everyone else's presentations, which I thought were great. But maybe next year for me.
That does definitely sound like someone's sticking their hand up for next year. So I'm noting that, David, for the next conference.
Oh, you're on the conference committee, aren't you, Alison? You both are, aren't you? Are you both?
I'm not on the conference committee,
you're
but
not.
somehow I end up doing things.
Yeah, you were doing things. Amanda was doing things. So two of us have heard, just count yourself in and book the time out. Thanks, David. Start thinking about the topic.
Okay. All right. Will do.
I was getting texts about the background music for the virtual conference, and Amanda, can we request next year? Amanda, can we request the music? I said, I have nothing to do with this music. Why am I getting these texts? I'm not even on the conference committee.
It's because you're an online guru, Amanda. That's why. And I think actually you were the pivotal point in taking it to an online conference. Because you had done an online conference previously, and it worked. So we thought, okay, well,
if Amanda can do it, anyone can.
We've got the brain power. We might not have the technological skills, but we can buy those, and off it went.
True. Yeah, no, it all went very well. And thank goodness we did. I was actually the one at the beginning of the year saying to the conference committee, do we really need to? We'll all be right. And it turns out, no, even as recently as the last couple of hours, WA and Victoria having an issue, unfortunately. So that's a little bit scary. Things can change at any moment. Yeah. But we did. We still managed to make it all work as best we could online. I'm seeing some more comments coming through here. Michael's saying, David, drink your drink before it gets warm. Just drink it before it gets warm. Are you saying don't worry about the fancy Yeti?
I don't need to worry. Mine's fine.
The thing is, we actually don't know whether there's anything in there either, Michael, either David. Oh, no, there is. Sorry, I did just see the tint of amber.
Proof of beer. Bill and Ben saying, I talked about anything I wanted in the review submission and I had a go at the narrow parameters. As the legislation says, it was the whole act. Don't be shy. Take it up to them. Yes. Well, I think was it 50 pages, Alison, that our Strata lawyers submission ended up being?
Yeah. It covered some ground. And it was, David, you were on that as well, weren't you?
I was, yeah. Some of the issues were hotly debated in one of the video link conferences I had. You weren't at that one, Amanda, but I think you joined the earlier one, and then there were a few.
I opted out of the conflict-ridden issues.
Yeah.
So viewers who are listening who are not lawyers, this is what happens when you get how many were on 8 or 9 lawyers on a committee to make submissions on a legislative review. You can only imagine the differing opinions, the points of view, everybody very competent and capable of arguing their point, but very ably led by David Knoll, barrister and fellow of the college, to be able to coordinate everybody's ideas and put them into some form of understandable submission. That was admirable.
Shout out to him. You did do a great job with corralling us all. And, I think everybody had differing opinions at some stage, but you have to look, for the greater good. What is going to make the act better? And yes, we do have different opinions, but I think we all wanted it to make it a better act, to make it clearer in certain parts, to make it more enforceable, definitely, or acts, I should say.
Now, listen up, New South Wales practitioners. I have here with me. I did promise our viewers this afternoon that I'd give them an update on what's happening with short-term letting. And I can do that alone, or I can do that here with my friends. And I think I'm going for the latter option. Do you guys know what's happened recently, just in the last week, with our New South Wales short-term letting laws that were due to commence, I believe, at the end of July, and are not commencing? There has been a delay.
I believe that was yes, it's going to commence, and then here's all the details, and then whoopsie, we got that a little bit wrong. We're a bit too quick off the mark. No, it's not going to happen. That's probably the press release that I'd put out if I was Department of Innovation and Better Regulation.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
they've pushed it back to November, haven't they?
Yeah, yep. 3 months. And this was the regulations, as I understand it, about the register. So having the register where if you didn't comply with the code of conduct, whether you're a host or a guest, you get on the bad boys register, and it's 3 strikes and you're out and you can't go on Airbnb anymore. That was a big part of it, because at the moment our code of conduct just has no teeth until you
There's
have that
absolutely
register.
nothing in it. So, and I haven't seen the regulations. I don't know what form they're in, but that is going to be absolutely fundamental. What's the point in having a code of conduct if you can't do anything with it? If yes, we've got a register, but okay, nobody knows how to put you on the register. How are the processes in place to have the register? Is that staffed? Are there resources behind this? I honestly don't know, and I know the department does a lot. It's obviously the tribunal sits under this department. There are significant resource issues in the tribunal. I think adding another bow to it to try and enforce short-term letting codes of conduct, that hire some people, basically put some money into it, do it right.
Yep. And we have our new section 137A, if I've got that right, which allows us to have the bylaw that prohibits short-term letting for anyone where it is not their principal place of residence. Is that have you been drafting a lot of those bylaws, Alison?
I have, and it's a difficult one to explain to people as well. That if somebody is living in a lot or they're using it as their principal place of residence, they might not necessarily be living there full time. They might be living overseas, but it's their principal place of residence in Australia or New South Wales, that they can short-term let the heck out of it. So it is a difficult concept. People are saying, well, why do they get that exemption? We want a building that is no short-term lets, but we can't outright prohibit it. So there's a lot of not distress, but just confusion as to why there is that carve out. And principal place of residence. Is it that it's the tax officers or the land revenues definition of principal place of residence? Meaning that
we definitely raised that in our submission in the law review as well. David?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That was one of the key problems we identified in our Axel submission to the government about this principal place of residence and what in fact does that mean. And I think we've recommended a definition that might have been copied across from one of those ATO ones, or it was a hybrid of it was a hybrid. But that is a key problem because I've got one at the moment where clearly the owners live around the corner from the building. They don't live in this lot, but they say it's the lot's their principal place of residence, and every weekend there's it's a party venue, and it's causing all sorts of problems for the other owners and occupiers in the building. And the owner is clued up and says, well, I'm entitled to short-term let. It's my principal place of residence. Clearly don't live there. So it's hard to pin them down on that. That some of them, that they've got, their address is still recorded on the electoral roll as the strata scheme address, the lot, but they don't live in the lot. We know that. So you've got to try and rely on circumstantial evidence to prove, well, it's not their principal place of residence, but what is the definition of that to be able, so you know what you have to prove or not prove to be able to run an action for a breach of a bylaw. So
I know you're subpoenaing tax records and things like that to be able to establish a case, which is never a good position to be in. Alison, I just heard that the pups are back from the day spa.
They are back from the day spa. A little bit shorter haircut than liked, but they are back. I swear those dogs have more pedicures and manicures and facials than, well, I've never had a pedicure or a manicure. No,
I know what we're doing next time we're together.
To be fair, I have had a manicure, and I don't like people touching me. I don't know why I didn't think the person was going to hold my hand, and I kept on taking my hand back. So you can imagine how well that went. So I'm not doing another one.
Roasted. Yeah. Oh gosh, you're
I
so funny.
just didn't like it. So didn't like it. So no, but the doggos they're obviously back and looking for some din-dins. So I may have to bow out very shortly.
That's all right. I am going to let both of you go. I'm not signing off just yet. So all of you there who I can see are tuning in and enjoying our after party. This is how lawyers party. I said earlier, David, you weren't here, but Helen and I were talking about the La Crosse Court of Appeal case. And I thought some of our viewers might be thinking, oh, I thought it was a party. No, this is how it's done. We love this stuff. This is talking about cases and the law, having a glass of wine. Things do get a bit more rowdy after a few more wines, but we won't leave it at that for tonight. So thank you, Alison Benson and David Edwards, who did not get away with being David E., for joining me for our after party, for our Friday live chat, and for sharing your good opinions and attitudes and, well, general wellness.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And Alison.
Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Excellent. I am still here, which means that all the right buttons were pressed. And I want to make sure that I head back up to Michael's comment earlier today, who was, I'm going to do this, show Michael's comment that he was excited for our first in-person event that is happening for a long time. What is he talking about? Michael is talking about one of my famous bylaws events, which I started running in 2019. I think the first in-person bylaws event was for Waverley Council towards the end of 2019. And this is my seminar where I teach residents and strata managers and committee members how to combat bad behavior in your community by tapping into the power of bylaws. Now, I ran these events towards the end of 2019 in various councils and the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hit, of course. And we rapidly shifted to online, which was and has been and still is a whole lot of fun running those webinars. I think I'll have to go back and count them, but I think I've done upwards of 25 different councils with these events, including the Western Suburbs region, and we're about to kick off the Northern Suburbs region. But on Tuesday, the 4th of May, I will be back in person for Canada Bay Council. Now, the event is happening at 6:30 p.m. at Rhodes, and Rochelle is going to pop in a link where you can find out the exact address for the event and you can register. It is for free. It is being put on with the support of the City of Canada Bay Council. I would love to see as many of you there as possible, even if you're not a local area resident there. Rhodes is a reasonably easy place to get to if you are in Sydney. Lots of very interested, very engaged apartment owners there in Rhodes wanting to find out more about how they can tap into the power of bylaws. And it's just good to be back on my feet, back on the stage, doing these events again. It's a very different setup, a different feel, a different skill perhaps to online. I've noticed, and I've become very used to online the last 18 months, and it's something that we will all, I think, continue to be doing, but it's good to be doing the in-person as well. So Rochelle will pop in that Canada Bay event registration there for Tuesday the 4th of May in the evening at Rhodes. I would love to see you. It's also your opportunity to find out about the template for the bylaw about managing waste in your apartment buildings. A lot of you ask me about that. You hear me talk about that on the webinars. That's being launched for Canada Bay Council on that night. So if you've been wanting to get your hands on a copy of that bylaw, then definitely attend on that night. Speaking of in-person events versus webinars, I am doing a webinar next Thursday for the City of Sydney Council and Waverley Council in partnership. We are going to be talking about installing solar. Really, really important and so popular these days. How do we get solar installed in our apartment building, whether for individual use, for common area energy supply, or exciting and new for energy supply for all occupants, shared solar models. If you tuned into my podcast episode with Matthew Waugh of Connexi this week. It was episode number 260. You would have heard us talk a little bit about how that shared solar model works, and how that technology is enabling owners corporations to not only reduce energy bills, but for they're able to save quite a lot of money that they can then use to reduce levies or invest in projects that improve the common property. So not to mention reduce their carbon footprint, which is very, very important. Rochelle is popping in the link to the podcast episode with Matthew. As I say on the episode, great timing because it has laid the foundation for this webinar that I will be delivering next Thursday, the 29th, I think it is. I don't have my notes in front of me, guys, so apologies if that's wrong, but Thursday, the 29th of April, I believe it is at 1 p.m. I will be running that webinar, not in person, webinar, together with City of Sydney Council and Waverley Council, talking about the legislation that is relevant to sustainability infrastructure and also giving you access to the solar bylaw template kit that's going to be able to help you, whether you're an individual or a building, to get solar up and running in your building. So looking forward to that. That is what I will have my head in next week. It'll all be about solar, and the week after it shall be about bylaws. I love it. I love seeing you guys, whether it's online or in person, and sharing this knowledge with you and hearing from you. The beautiful thing about doing this is I can hear from you how you're going in your communities, what your questions are, what's bothering you at the time, and what solutions you need, so that I can help you all as best I can to live more peacefully and more profitably, if you're an investor, in apartment buildings. So thank you so much. I can see Jane Jacoby, who joined me for live a couple of weeks ago. Lovely to see you here, Jane, laughing at Alison. She is a card indeed. And yes, Sean, when you do ask 5 lawyers, you do get 10 opinions. Jay is asking, will it be streamed or recorded? The webinar next Thursday. I am chatting to City of Sydney and Waverley about streaming it here to our Your Strata Property page. If we can do that, we absolutely will. I will make sure that I let you guys know what's happening with that. Jay, the best thing to do is get registered. If you're registered, then you're on the list and you'll get updates and you'll find out how you can best access the content. Alrighty, it is Friday. It is later than usual. You can see it's been a big week here. I am sending you out into the world to enjoy your weekend in Strata, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for joining me to celebrate the College of Strata Lawyers Conference. Thank you to my guests, Alison, Helen, and David. And I will catch you all here sometime in the future. Enjoy, guys. Bye-bye.